We have gone the distance. Game 3 is upon us. Vici Gaming taking on LGD. Currently the battle for last place in the LPL right now, as both of these teams do not have a win. But in the next hour, that is going to change as Vici swing it back in Game 2 off of a massive carry performance from Swift on that Nidalee.
Yep.
Dude was not missing spears.
And it wasn't just Swift. We have to give credit where it's due to the rest of the team. I actually think Caveman played decently well around him specifically.
Yeah.
So super happy with Caveman's performance and his turnaround from game 1 to 2. Of course, speaking towards the supports in this set, what I didn't notice until the first game was going was that both of these supports are the power inters of the LPL, in that when they lose a game, they go 0-6.
Yeah.
That's the style of play that they have. In other words, their style doesn't change win or lose. So they look really good when they're winning. They don't look as good when they're losing because their styles don't change. So we got to see the good part of Caveman in the second game when the first two was not so good.
At the very least, it means that some teams can capitalize on those mistakes, specifically players like Swift when they get those carry. He actually takes our MVP from that Game 2 performance. Surprise, surprise. 11, 0, and 8 on Nidalee. Could it have possibly been anyone else?
Not really. Didn't really miss a spear at all either. It looked fantastic, and it was a slow start. You know, at level 2, the opposing jungler, Amy, gets the Scuttle Crab. You can see him attempting to get there in time. It was a little bit slow to the punch. And then the kill in the top lane as well at level 6. You know, like, I'm seeing good things here from LGD. And then he gets entry for one gank. That's all it took for him in the bottom lane. And then comes back again, gets another gank, and just rolled with it the whole map.
That was just a tragedy when we saw Y4 step up. He knew too. Like there's definitely a jungle support somewhere around here. I'm gonna wait. They're going to show themselves from the bottom brush and get impatient. Turns out they were in the top brush.
I think from watching that back, it was like he was pretty sure that they were in the second bush, the one furthest away from him. So he's just gone back and forth using minions as cover. And then they were very clearly next to him.
Bush next to him.
Cheesing the heck out of him.
But now we've got to talk about what this next match actually means and how it's going to play out, because we have a series on our hands. Vici finally taking this win against LGD, playing that style through carrying Swift. And LGD in their win, they played through Yuki in the mid lane, not through Jinnu hard carrying, but it was Yuki and PYL who was unlocked to roam around the map.
Yeah, Yuki was playing very well with Amy to get to bottom lane, to get access to PYL, who wants to engage, wants to shot call, do all the extra stuff for LGD and the team. So that's something that you have to look towards, absolutely. LGD's point of power seems to be Amy, and then unlocking Yuki through that to rotate to the rest of the map. But all of this, to me, is reflected through the draft, which is just such a weird thing to actually look at for both teams. You know, LGD in their win, they got Talia first rotation with a Swain. You're like, that's actually a pretty good draft right now. The Swain can go to 2 lanes, usually bottom. They haven't revealed their support, and Swain's ranged with wave clear. So good bottom laner, and Talia very good jungler that can flex to mid. When you look at their Game 2 draft, their first 2 picks were Lucian and Darius. So you're like, okay, I see what's going on here. The Lucian's going bottom lane. Everything's been revealed from the get-go. And they give their opponents Aurelia and Aatrox on the opposite side. So why perhaps the Darius into Aurelia counter revealed that early when you could get something like an Aatrox for top lane, get priority? Were they afraid of Vici playing it because they know Audi can play it? But like all of this, the draft has affected LGD's team composition so much.
Yeah, they have been prioritizing that red side, as you said, setting up for Y4 in the bottom lane with the Lucian, with the, I believe the other champion was Swain in that Game 1. We just talked about that. But still, they are doing the exact same thing in this Game 3. Vici had side selection. They chose blue side. Can we expect LGD to go through with the same style once again, where they save their support to the last round and try to set up for a strong bottom lane to counter out Vici?
I think that leaving your bottom lane till last is the best. I'm more confused as to why Vici continue to pick blue side as their highest priority. And naturally through draft phase, right, red side gets last pick, blue side gets first pick. And teams tend to prioritize which one they prefer more as to why. But right now, with 4 flex picks potentially available in every team composition, sometimes you don't know where things are going until the whole composition's locked and they've traded roles. Red side just sounds better to me, right? Because you can hold those flexes and get counter picks for lanes at the same time. Whereas, you know, the first pick Aurelia, whilst it can flex, usually goes mid lane. It usually goes to a certain lane. You can pick accordingly against that. Once it's revealed, you counter it.
I guess it's more about how do we expect these teams to play their styles then? Because Vici in Game 2, they didn't look for a super flexible strategy. They picked that Nidalee second rotation after getting the Aatrox Aurelia, and then just relied on Swift to carry through, and then picked the Ashe Tahm Kench after seeing most of the bottom lane from LGD. Is that a viable strategy?
Yeah,
Does Swift have enough gas in the tank?
Towards these strategies, though, the reason that I do bring up the draft prior is that it's about early game to me for both of them. If you get early game control, we've seen in this set that the losing team doesn't control vision. They get denied vision, they get beaten from flanks. We saw the Nidalee Spears, we saw the flanks in denial from PYL getting engages as well. So constantly through these sets, through these matches, we've seen vision denial and vision control from leads, and the team behind can't control it. So when you get to draft, you're looking at an Aurelia, definitely a strong champion, can control the middle lane, and we saw LGD's attempt at beating that with the Darius to get control. It didn't get complete control. It was on the opposite side of the map to perhaps where they wanted it because of the Soraka. So what changes to get better map control as a team is not the Soraka bottom lane. Perhaps they should be more aware of the Ashe Talon Kench as a combo now and try and get a kill lane down there again. I think Soraka could still be the Alistar or the Rakan in the first 3 picks.
We'll see what that's going to be for LGD. Obviously, PYL has been such a volatile player with that playstyle. As you said, the aggressive support, we'll call it the walkabout support. He wants to scout out the map as much as possible. Sometimes that means getting caught, sometimes that means getting vision for his team, and it does create a rather snowbally matchup in an already snowbally meta. The question is, will Swift be able to capitalize once again in this game 3, or will he be forced to take a more supportive role for the team? Because we know there are more carries on the V2 roster. We know there are more carries on the LGD roster than just these handful of players. We just don't really get to see the opportunity to see these players consistently step up. We get one-off performances from Yuki. We get one-off performances from Jinin.
We get it from both teams. You know, Vici have been taking games but not sets, so it's nice to see the improvements, but those improvements haven't gotten them the full sets like you mentioned for LGD. So ultimately, this is the first chance for either team to get a consistent showing, and hopefully both teams show up to play at their strengths in this third game. We get to see them clash at their best and no weaknesses to be exploited. We've seen positives from Swift. That's something that should continue moving into this third game. We've also seen good things from the side of LGD, specifically Amy and Yuki. And if Swift and Amy are able to clash and meet in the middle, I am very curious to know how that pans out.
Yeah, of course, those junglers interacting is going to be quite fun. Of course, that mid-jungle interaction is another thing that can try to disrupt that matchup. It really seems like mid has been more on an island for this specific match, interacted with the junglers, not so much then interacting with the junglers themselves. How do you think it's going to shake out? What's your take on this final game? Is it LGD or is it Vici that walks away with the win?
I think Vici should win this game if they play towards their best still. I'd give it to Vici for sure.
All right, well, we'll have to see if Vici can close it out and keep Rusty true to his word. That said, it's now time for our casters to get us into this final game between Vici and LGD.
不破不立，只有经历巨变，老干爹才能重获新生。
Thank you, Mr. Roma, and we will get ourselves into our third and final game. There has to be a winner in this series and indeed in the league so far for these two teams. Because, as a reminder, both teams are 0-3 so far. But I will say from some of the play that we're seeing from both LGD and Vici, I can see both of these two teams move away from their bottom place standings.
Yeah, this hasn't been a total fiesta, to be frank about it. I was expecting much worse coming into Vici and LGD. I thought it was going to be chaotic, all over the map, just a complete disaster. And frankly, it's actually been very clean. It's been methodical. The teams have the right ideas. It's just small mis-executions or even just smaller timing windows that they're not quite capitalizing on that have meant the difference between victory and defeat. And then likewise, in that same breath, just the caliber and amount of talent that we have in the LPL means that even these bottom tier teams still have these flashes of brilliance, like Swift going 11-0 on Italy.
I mean, that's it really. Even the bottom teams in the LPL, they're still pretty good. Vici will look towards the blue side. Once again, it's actually going to be a 3-time in a row of Vici, as well as, of course, LGD taking the red side 3 times in a row. Second game was actually picked by LGD to be on red side.
And that's 5 bans now leveraged at the jungler. Graves, Camille, Nidalee, Talia, and Nocturne, and not a priority pick of a jungler either.
I mean, how many things do you need to ban out against Swift? I mean, because he's still got more on the tank, but these are some of the picks that will make him less effective.
But it also means that both Vici and LGD are recognizing, because, you know, you only get 3 bans as one team, so 2 of those bans did come from Vici, and it's saying that Swift has more than Amy. You know, if it's not more champions played, it's more effective champions.
Yes.
And that this matchup will turn on a dime in that jungle, and we just believe that Swift is better.
And to be honest, one of the best performances I actually saw from Amy last split was on Volibear. So yeah, I actually cannot name a big champion pool that I would say that Amy is particularly strong at. However, this split has been different for the guy that you see on your screen. So we'll see what he's got in the tank. That was our first pick of Aurelia to actually touch on some of the picks we've had so far. And on the opposite side, LGD will take the Vladimir and the Swain, 2 picks that have also gone in the marksman position, quote unquote.
Yeah, traditionally we've seen both these picks spending most of their time in the bot lane, and that theoretically could be a Swain Vladimir bot lane. And normally, like we saw in game number 1, you put Swain in tandem with another hard CC champion like the Alistar. That has been a big priority for LGD, even banned against them in game number 2 to make sure that PYL couldn't get his hands on it. So we'll see if they prioritize it before Amy's champion. I do agree with Rusty though that I like to see most of the bot lanes come out in second rotations of pick, just because it's not only just the marksman pool that is relatively large right now, it's the fact that it's mid laners, it's top laners, it's 80 carries and supports that can all play in the marksman position. So it makes sense that it would be the prioritized secondary ban phase role.
Yeah, for sure. And also, just the fact there are so many flexes in this meta as well. You know, you can be very creative with your picks and bans. Vici will take the Aatrox and also the Rise over to their team. And again, these picks can go multiple different lanes.
Yeah, and speaking of creative, we saw most recently a Rise going down into the marksman position or the bot lane position. We've also seen Aurelia spend time down there. I'm not a huge fan of Rise. Typically when teams pull it out, it means that they're going to take a jungler who's just going to camp mid. So from a Vici perspective and their playstyle, if the Rise does end up in Fire Rain's hands, I completely understand the strategy. But my issue with Rise is that he's lost a lot of his utility that he once had when he was so dominant in Spring, because playing those side lanes is so much more difficult now that you have the changes to the ultimate. And likewise, his itemization just doesn't feel as good anymore when you have all of these other picks who are peaking and spiking so much earlier in the game than Rise. So he's basically, to me, a hard CC bot that feels good when you get him ahead, but feels absolute trash when he falls behind.
There's a lot of champions like that, honestly, and we can get deeper into that later. But for now, LGD will take away the Rakan, once again, from Caveman, removing these playmakers from Caveman's hands. And then on the opposite side, we'll have that Xin Zhao ban towards Amy right here.
And it's them prioritizing the fact that they want the Alistar, because they're not picking the Rakan for themselves immediately following out of ban phase, which could be dangerous because unless that Jax is a jungler, it means that Amy's either looking for the counter pick from red side to Swift's jungle, or he's possibly going to run out of options.
Predicting a potential Alistar ban right here from Vici.
It's either that or another jungler, so now they're gambling. Do you give PYL his Alistar, or do you gamble that Jax isn't the jungler?
Okay, so the reason I was saying Alistar is because I saw the Pyke ban come in from LGD, and the reason why Pyke works so well into Alistar is because nice damage reduction, bro, but I'm going to execute you anyways. So right here, if you pick the Alistar, there is no Pyke to go into it now.
It also feels a lot better because it's not a range versus we're going to call Pyke semi-ranged with his hook.
Oh, he is.
Type of matchup. For me, Pyke isn't a very lane-dominant champion, which is why I was very surprised that we saw him at all in week number 1 of LPL. I think he's going to find his stride, and he is a champion that does better. Again, he wins more, but he's not a champion that's going to turn the tides for you.
For sure. He is a win more card, but he has some really good interactions with some champions, Alistar included. Vici, going to be locking in the Trundle right here. Again, another flex pick, so we'll see where it goes in the end.
Okay, so this tells me that it's probably going to be a mid lane Rise. I mean, theoretically, it could still be Aurelia. She does offer a CC. It's not as consistent or as easy for Rise to hit, but a long staple combo from the LPL has been Trundle Rise because of its ability to gank the mid lane via Pillar as well as Rune Prison. Now, if it does go bottom, Trundle's also very good at ganking bot lane, and then when you put that in tandem with a support Shin, who's got the double taunt feature there. So, you know, I said it was probably a mid lane Rise, but I'm going to take back. I think it's still flexible, but it just offers so many kill pressure or kill lanes for Swift to pick and choose from.
Yeah. And LGD will finish it off with the cat, but no bush. We're going to just have a Rengar going into the jungle here for Amy.
And I know that Amy really made his breakout performance in the LPL on the Cinderhulk junglers, and so when people think about Amy, they usually think of the Nunus, of the Rek'Sais, of that type of era. But even before then, Amy came from carry junglers. His signature champion was Kha'Zix and Rengar. So it's nice to see Amy go back to his roots, even though the traditional or modern LPL audience really haven't gotten a taste of that.
That's fair. And to be honest, my first interaction with Amy was when he was still next to Intruder. Intruder was the aggressive carnivore.
He got to play all
the... Yeah, exactly. You know, they were very, very contrasting style junglers. So Amy has definitely picked up the mantle and changed a bunch as a jungler. So nice to see. And honestly, honestly, I'm looking at just the junglers, to be honest, to be one of the big deciding factors. Swift is an easy one to say, you know, it's obviously not just a big game changer to be Swift is going to be a big deal in this game, but on the opposite side, Amy is also going to be there. He was one of the major reasons why LGD were able to pick up a Game 1 win.
And I will say this, by having the Rise in the ADC position, because I was just thinking about the matchup some more,
yeah.
You do get a lot more lane control in terms of your ability to push creeps versus someone like an Aurelia who must trade health to do so, unless she's just going to very quickly dance across the battlefield. And so next to someone like Shen, it also then feels much better. But like you're saying, kind of back to the big point, yes, this is all about the junglers, and both junglers have been given a wealth of opportunity and options to gank these lanes and have kill pressure. It's still a bruiser bottom with an Alistar. It's still a Jax up top, so whatever you want. Where are we going to hit the map first?
Yeah. Summoner's Rift is your oyster. Depending wherever you want to go right here. Now, Trundle is a little less dynamic, I would say, than Nidalee. Nidalee is just... You can set up, you can come up with these traps, you can play Fog of War. Trundle was just like, you could play Fog of War, but then it's you just kind of sprinting at your opponent and then hoping for the best.
He also doesn't get, I mean, it used to be that you would just grab hold of Trundle because of his ability to skirmish and duel in the jungle.
Yep.
It's not quite as easy this time around, which is why I feel it's not so much about the Trundle anymore. It's still very much about the laners and how Trundle's interacting with the laners via his pillar.
Very, very true.
Amy is going to have a hard time in this mid lane, though.
Yes, he is.
Because Vladimir's just going to get jammed in, which means that it's an immediate pivot point for LGD.
Yeah, we'll make sure to hit those matches very hard when we get into the first couple of minutes of the game here for us. But third time's the charm. We're onto the Rift once more. LGD, they need your energy because right now Vici are coming for this win.
Round 2. He's got people sitting next to him and he's still got the wings.
That's true. Maybe they're really comfy though, you know?
To lay back
Yeah,
on?
yeah.
Okay, if you're going to build in like, you know, things with cup holders next to you, then yeah, I'll sit next to your giant contraption. But otherwise, nah, get the wings out of here.
Yeah, just saying, it's a good way to, you know, get people to sit next to you.
So what we were talking about before coming into this game is that it's all eyes on Yuki and Fire Ring here. It is going to be, I believe, what, the Electrocute Vladimir?
It is, yeah, it will be. We've seen some Predator, we've seen some Electrocute. We've actually seen a lot of different things, to be honest.
So definitely wants to try to put a little bit more power back into his lane phase versus some of the utility that the Predator would allow and helping Vladimir close that distance and get into the back line. But this is what I'm really scared about. I don't know the matchup super intimately, and again, it's going to be of how these two players play it correctly. But if this collapses, if Yuki is unable to control Fire Rain and he gets free reign as the Aurelia to immediately exit River at any point, then Swift just wins by proxy. It doesn't even matter what Amy does.
Okay, so now we have a bit of time as we're just watching Swift's early pathing on traditional Trundle. I'm going to talk about Aurelia and Vladimir. Now, I'm in disagreement with Rusty on how this matchup works, but I'm in strong belief that Aurelia hard wins this matchup. And Rusty's argument is that the Vladimir, he's able to use the pull at the right time, which means it's a very hard disengage for when Aurelia jumps on top of him. However, in levels 1 to 3, Aurelia has a massive advantage. You can set up the minion wave, you can basically ignore a lot of the harass that's coming in from Vladimir in these early levels, get your Ionia further stacked up using the minions, and jump on his face. In a very similar way that the Gnar matchup works, you just jump on him.
And just working in tandem with that, I can understand where both perspectives are coming from a mechanical standpoint, the fact that Vladimir would have tools in his kit to try to deal with some of the combos that Aurelia is going to output and disengage from it, but ultimately it's kind of like the old Swain case. Like, yeah. Swain came back into meta as soon as he was able to have control over the creep wave, because at the competitive level, it's all about pressure and priority in lane, and that starts with how you control the minions. So Vladimir, historically, doesn't have great control over the minions until he gets more points into his abilities, yeah. So he can clear or keep up the clear effectively, and that's exactly what we see in the mid lane right now. Aurelia just has Vladimir jammed in underneath him, and it opens up opportunities for Swift to start peeking in, getting this counter jungling down, or at least just acquiring information about where Amy is.
Exactly, and this also syncs up with the jungler's pathing, because typically your mid lane, you win levels 1 to 3 because you force a Vladimir to take the Sanguine Pool second, which means that your jungler, if you're invading, I mean, what's a Vladimir with Q and Sanguine Pool gonna do to you in the 2 versus 2?
I feel like we got the murder board set up, and we're just like, okay, who killed Vladimir in the kitchen with the knife? And if you follow this blade and you go down here, and at level 3, if he takes the pool, then Any pigeons? I don't know.
It's Colonel Mustard. I mean, it makes sense. Like, this is just all small factors that equal the bigger things. And here comes Amy. Hello, how you doing, caveman? Get over here. And Y4, he's gunning for the kill, but it will go over to Amy.
It was Knife Cat all along in the bot lane from the bush.
Give him the shank.
Couldn't have been easier for PYL. Shin just walked face first into that. Gave him a little bit of a high five, and now Amy is on the aggressive.
He is. He's got Snow over the wall, but Snow doesn't really do a lot of damage right now, and PYL is here for the disengage of the headbutt on top of that. So he will choose to back away from this one. Meanwhile, on the top lane, we've got Aldi taking on Jinu. Great Dark Flight. Needs to back away from the counter-strike. Well played. That was just nice mechanics coming out of Aldi, and that has resulted so far in a 2-wave advantage.
Yeah, playing cleanly with the windows there and understanding what your trade is going to look like. Again, we just talked about all of the minion control and everything like that, and it goes to the top lane, and it's like, no. It's still just about the windows, about when you press your buttons.
Is indeed, and this is why we're a good pairing for us. You talk about the macro, I'll talk about the micro. We've got it on lockdown. But this is not a great laning phase so far from Jinu. Typically, we will see the E-Max coming out of Aldi. He gets the wave push, and he's also able to batter down Jax, who has no wave ability. No wave clear ability.
Doesn't have great wave clear. It doesn't feel good. Swift actually walking over a ward there, so both junglers doing a great job because you have vision on both Amy as well as Trundle, which is why Swift was looking for something cheeky there, probably trying to stall out Yuki's back. Again, it is a flash ignite Vladimir without the ability to change for a teleport, so long gone is the spellbook Vladimir. I was very fond of it in spring.
Yep. Press F to pay respects. Here comes Amy into the mid lane, but he is going to be spotted out by this ward. He's going to start pathing towards the top side now. There is no current caps for him to take, though. So he's going to place down a ward of his own. That's going to be a control ward right there. Firing, I think he's very much aware of this.
Something were to happen to your control ward.
Yep.
That's a nice 75 gold that lasted on the map for 3 seconds.
Yep. I actually wonder if there's a stat for the shortest lived ward of control wards.
That might be it.
That might be it. That might places it down. Firing is just like, this one's mine.
And it means that the gank path has been opened up towards the top lane, which is why our observer is nicely showing this to us. Now, what Jinu wants to do is he wants to shove this in and then immediately back. But he is technically in a massive danger zone. Now, thankfully, Vici aren't going to pressure this or force it. You know, Trundle's sitting on Wolves right now. The wave did push into Aurelia because she did take time to walk out of lane and clear out that control ward. But we just have to watch for these windows and these opportunities because Fire Rain has been taking them repeatedly.
Take a look at this. Jinu's on his way to the mid lane. Here comes the Hemo Plague into the Sanguine Pool. Instant flash after, and that was just way too clean out of Jinu.
And immediately the teleport cancelled, so 0 response for Vici. And yeah, we were just talking about how the control wards have been set up behind the Rift Herald pit in favor of Vici, but Jinu's like, nah, mate. I'm just gonna walk it straight downriver. I mean, that's the time to strike, White. When your when your mid lane feels the most comfortable in it, and that's the time it just turns into a kill. So well played by Jinu, playing the reverse mind games on the vision play. And now suddenly Jax is going to be a big problem, and it's Aatrox Jax. These champions do virtually the same thing in terms of at some point they will be Aatrox or they will be Jax no matter what because they're so item dependent. Although I will say, again, as I said in game number 2, Jax feels a bit better to me just because he has some more team fight presence. Yeah. He also snowballs just a little bit hard. You give Jax that one item power spike and you feel it. You know, you feel it at the Sheen, you feel it at the Triforce. Whereas with Aatrox, like, it's there. He gets the instant spike and he's definitely stronger than Jax pre-items when you take items out of the equation, but he doesn't spike as hard on like the Tiamat or even the second item. It's actually an opportunity here for Swift to gank bottom. I was curious if he was going to take the blast cone over the wall and then just try to hard rush through that bottom ward from PYL and Y4, but instead he's going to go to his Raptor camp. I feel like it's a bit of a missed opportunity because they were shoving into Rai Shen with a possible Trundle behind them. It's a possibility. Also, it is 8 minutes, so alarm just to just say that stopwatches have come online, and there's only one in this game, which is on Y4, which he now has access to. Amy's going to clear out this Crab and actually opens up the potential Inferno Dragon right here. His bot lane's pushing, his mid lane's pushing as well. Amy, you've got the down by himself, he can take this. And it's mostly the control coming from his bot lane. You can see that the first one's to rotate there. Yuki has done a good job, make sure that he has his boots, he's got his Kendall Gym. He is trying to push forward because he's closer to level 9, level 8 right now, so enough points to his abilities where his wave clear is starting to be a factor, and this is just going to be a free take.
A little slow to the punch right there. Caveman has been caught out, but I don't expect it to turn into too much more. The pillar was strong from Swift, just slowing down the assault there from LGD, and they'll get themselves a nice early Infernal Dragon.
And frankly, I'm going to put that blame on Swift there. Again, as I was talking about, when he was on his red buff, there was opportunity where he could have used the Blast Cone over the Dragon Pit wall, where he could have tried to work with both Snow and Caveman down here. Like, why play a Ryze Shin lane if you're never going to gank it? So this is kind of my issues with Swift. Sometimes you get like the playmaking, hard engage, everything all the time Swift, and then other times you get kind of these wonky pathings where he's looking at opportunities. It's almost like he doesn't trust his team enough to execute on them.
That is exactly what I was thinking right here, because Fire-In, I mean, he dies in the mid lane. The top lane is now essentially losing. I mean, that Aatrox matchup is no longer winning. Jinwoo has closed the gold gap significantly, and he's winning in trades. Mid lane, Yuki is getting priority in the mid lane in terms of control. Swift, he would like to invade, but I don't think he trusts that the team will be there to back him up now.
It's like he missed the window where he could have had all of the effectiveness.
Yes.
You know, having the Aurelia before Vladimir was able to compete with the wave clear, having the Ryze and the Shin, and they had access to both of their summoners. Like, Shin is running Ignite. They want to kill people here. So props to Amy, you know, getting the initial kill and gank. That definitely put things a little bit on its head, but I just feel like there's a bit more from Swift, and some of this pathing may have cost him the Infernal and possibly the early game. And if Vici don't have an early game, they definitely don't have a mid or late game.
And that's it, right? It possibly more, because this is the ripple effect essentially from the early game. If they don't upset the cascade that is happening right now for them, because LGD is even setting up more plays. They're capitalizing on this bottom wave.
Super defensive TP, hold on, to just hide, because they want the dive to happen here. Here comes Taunt.
Amy is now being revealed. Great headbutt pulverized once again by PYL, but he is in very deep as the twin teleports come down, and Snow will find himself a kill.
Just straight up baited there from Vici. The fact that he doesn't TP to the tower, he TPs behind it on the minion wave. They read PYL like a book, and they've been reading him this entire series. This guy's gonna go for it. He's bloodthirsty. Yeah. He'll be silly enough.
Yeah, and to be honest, that wasn't that difficult a read, to be honest. I mean, that was a green eggs and ham read right there, you know? Like, PYL just, you knew it was gonna happen, and that turns into a kill that gives priority, and Amy is still trying to double down. He has to jump in right now, but now he's taunted. Whitefall has to commit to this play, but here's Swift as well to follow up. Still think he's good. Like, he's got level 6 now. He can subjugate and he still wins the 1v1. And it's going to be close, but I think he just needs that confidence to be like, I can win the 1v1, the 2v2, and possibly the 3v3 if it comes to it on top side of the map.
See, it's... Okay, perfect example. Sorry to segue away from you. I agree. It's things like this, where PYL moves up river. Now, naturally, he can do that. His bot laner isn't in lane with him, so the enemy bot lane is there. There's no real reason for him to be there unless he wants to just absorb some of the free EXP that was hitting the tower. He places his control wards because he's possibly trying to set up a play later on, but back and just presses B. And Alistair's sitting there looking for the gank. And it's just, what?
Yeah, I don't know.
It just seems like such a disconnect that PYL has his plan and he follows it through, but if he's just not telling the rest of LGD what that plan is or what have you, because PYL constantly gets caught out in these types of situations. He's literally roaming the river with no information or vision because it's been completely control warded by Vici. Yeah. It's just doing his own thing right now.
This is the PYL special, you know. This is not a new thing, it's not an old thing, like, it will always be a thing. And you're right, it's difficult for us to know because we don't have the comms in front of us, but it feels like that, right?
But it's also difficult to fix it because he's not being punished in this instance. You look at it like, you know, it's not so bad. No, a better team kills him right there.
Yeah, that's what, negative reinforcement? A positive reinforcement on a confirmation bias. There you go.
Just they don't learn the lessons.
Yeah. Swift here is on his way to the bottom lane here. He's got that traditional Toronto, I like it. He's going to be running the Pillar of Filth and the old Contaminate as jump in by Caveman a little bit early, but did Swift sneak in? That's the question. I don't think he thought he snuck in, but LGD, I don't think they saw it.
And they're just trying to force the wave in, I think. I like how Swift just charged for it. He's like, screw it.
Yeah, I just go in with whatever, but I'll clear out the walls while I'm doing so. Jinwoo into the top lane, trying to stop this Bloodwell, and Shen with the clutch ultimate in the top lane that's being engaged on by LGD, but it was all a ruse because here comes Swift to finish off PYL in the bottom lane.
PYL trying to be the hero, making sure the Shin doesn't get up there, but here we go, round 2-3.
3-man dive with no Bloodwell on the Aatrox, and he will go down.
And chaos all across the map, but ultimately it means one thing. We're in a tower race, and I believe it's 3-on-3, but it looks like LGD have the upper hand here unless FLICKR can stop them. No, unless the creep wave can stop them.
I don't know, he's lining up the flawless duet right here. He's going to think better of it. Who is it going to be? I can't, wait, who was that?
I believe it was the red one that went first.
The red one that went down.
Yes, I believe it was LGD.
So LGD got the first tower?
Yeah.
Okay, because that was almost simultaneous. That's like one of the few times I actually don't know who got the first tower.
Cut it to the wire. Dom would definitely know that answer. He is very intimate with a lot of the, not strange interactions, but programming interactions in our game.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll just assume it was LGD for now.
Dom, thumbs up for LGD, thumbs down for Vici. Red.
What? Oh no! He just gave us he gave us the Caesar, which is the in the middle. Rusty said thumbs up.
Okay, it was red. LGD.
It was red. Okay.
I like how I said thumbs up, thumbs down. He literally just like gave me the finger.
Alright, 2-3, small advances to LGD, but it's really minimal at this stage in the game. It's really just that Infernal Dragon that has split them up. Swift is going to start this off, and the whole gang's here, man. Everyone is here for this Cloud Dragon. Never before has Cloud Dragon felt so loved.
And meanwhile, LGD are like, it's fine, man.
Yeah,
you can have that last piece of pineapple pizza. We really don't want it that badly.
Yeah, it's really confusing. And they're actually going to push up this top wave because they're absorbing farm right now. Like we joke, but they're getting farm on multiple carries. You've got Jackson in the top lane, mid lane. Vladimir is getting farm under his belt, so they're okay with this trade.
Yeah, and it's the fact that you're always trading something when you do approach a monster objective like that, and you're correct. It's just grabbing a couple of waves right there, but again, LGD, they didn't feel that they were in a position either through their vision, either through their buys, either through their back timers to contest it. It's just a Cloud, doesn't matter. Live to fight another day or set up a trap, which they're actually on the hunt right now. And finally, Captain PYL and his right-hand man and Amy, the two longest standing members of LGD, are on the hunt.
They're pushing in that. And let's see if they can just find this kill onto Caveman. I definitely agree with Rusty. I believe he was talking about Caveman and PYL. Like, there's only two modes. It's God or Power Int.
Power carry or Power Int?
It's the way he put it, yeah. It's very true. Caveman has had some knockout performances. Like earlier on, that channel was clutch.
But look at this! Okay, not more than 45 seconds ago, this was completely covered with LGD vision. They were all up in here, but Yuki's out of position, Amy is now on his red buff, and LGD have lost so much gold, and now they're doubling down. They're trying to save this.
Uh-oh, here comes the TP, and they've found Caveman as well. PYL gets the knockback. He'll flash into the dash, but Junior wants to follow through. Aldi with a nice knock up there from the Darkfly, but meanwhile, Amy has found the Aurelia. Goodbye to you, Fire Rain. And Amy, with that one kill, is looking to chase down onto Aldi. There's a teleport coming in from Shen, but maybe doesn't want this one anymore because he's a low health Shen teleporting into this. Snow in the 1v1 off to the side against Amy. He'll win this one, but on the rest of the team, Yuki in a 1 versus 2, this is not happening. What is going on, Frost?
There were so many different positional and oh my god, the shield! There were so many different positional, mechanical misplays, outplays, terrible decisions, incredible reactions that somehow Vici just skated out of this with 3 members.
That was bizarre. I mean, we honestly need that replay in 0.25 speed.
Exactly. You'd have to go back and watch that replay probably 8 different times to just keep track of all of the, okay, that was an incredible moment folled by, terrible moment. Okay, incredible moment. Oh my god, what the?
Because there were also 3 different fights that were going on.
Oh, there was more than that.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Caveman was having an internal battle with himself.
Okay, so the first thing that stood out to me is the fact that Caveman way out of position right now, and he's basically forced to use his taunt just to reposition himself, which is a huge form of CC. Now, to Fire Rain. He delays Amy, and he actually does great damage to the Rengar because that pincer maneuver looked like such good positioning from LGD. At this point, you're like, there's no way in hell Vici come back from this. But Aatrox, the power of his kit, the fact that he's able to get the region, come back into the fight, Snow capitalizes on all of the damage that Fire Rain had done to Amy, then gets the clutch shield and cleans up the back half. So, great I guess just keeping track of the chaos of that fight, because that would definitely take me another 3 goes at that replay. But I'm going to say, great job on FLICKR to stall out Amy. Huge positioning from Snow to make sure that he followed up on it and killed the carries, and huge play to Audi, making sure that he had the kit from Aatrox to stall out the fight long enough that FireRain and Snow were able to capitalize.
And Caveman, I'm still trying to figure out whether that was a good or bad team fight from him. Because yes, he got caught, but then he was like, I'm doubling down, baby, let's go. And then teleports in on 200 health, gives the shield, and then finds a Shadow Dash mid-team fight while he's low. So I'm 50-50, but I think he came out positive.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it was. But the bottom line...
We're back to mud wrestling.
We are, but the bottom line, you're right, is that Vici won the fight. They managed to take the Herald, and now they've slingshot themselves into the lead. They're actually 2,000 gold ahead now of LGD, whereas LGD were leading for this entire game, not by much, but by a small margin.
And ultimately, because the top tower is so low, it means that if they want to, they could utilize that Rift Herald on an inner structure, which is what I hope they do. Is Swift, he was looking at some fried chicken. He decided he didn't want it.
Not today, unfortunately, no.
Does he still get to be fried chicken?
He's a bird. I mean, I don't know.
Well, technically, he's a dragon.
Who? Oh, with the
Swain.
skin. Right. Is what you were trying to say?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was the joke. It's funnier if you explain it. Do you want to explain it again?
No.
Just one more time?
No, it's all good.
Okay. Hello?
Hello?
This is Frost.
This is Frost. That was the best possible ending to that. And Jinnu still pushing down this bottom wave. And now, the question in my head is who is actually stronger between Jinnu and Audi. I'm still going to give it over to this Jax on the Triforce item spike, moving now into whatever Sterix item he wants to pick up from here.
I mean, you can already see the respect from Audi, and effectively he's playing around his kit. If he has the ability to respawn, he's going to try to use it to bait in the Jax, and then hopefully hit him when his cooldowns or his cooldown windows are open. And we've seen Audi been doing that repeatedly, but yeah, just in a straight up meat grinder, smashing their heads together, Jax will come out on top. But Audi does have the outplay potential.
Definitely agree on that one. Swiss is going to clear out this vision right here, just around the Baron. We're 21 minutes into the game, and there is a possibility for either team to go for this one, but Trundle, of course, is going to be great in this situation. Swift on his way into the top lane, seeing if he can find himself a Vladimir, because he just popped him towards the Aurelia, but she actually is more interested in the minions. Does have a small window here where the Ionia Fervor is up, but is now faded, and Yuki respects it. He backs away, and this tower goes down to Vici.
That said, Snow and Caveman should actually be in the mid lane, forcing that wave forward and trying to prep an opportunity for Swift to drop this Rift Herald. Now, if he wanted to drop it, Shelly would need a long way to run, so I feel like it was a bit of a wasted opportunity. He's going to drop it anyway, but again, imagine if the creep wave was, you know, where that ward was right now, and it's these split-second differences.
Yeah, I think it's just because the Herald was timing out there, right? Which is why it just went in the mid lane.
You could have maximized it, min-max.
Yeah, just had to drop it like it was hot, and somehow Shelly made it past the front line anyway, question marks? Like, what was going on there, LGD? Well, great defense, but Vici is going to kick it off on this Dragon, down to around half, but looking towards Jinnu, they don't know how many members are behind him, however. Flawless Duet comes across, and Trundle will come out with the smite, so Swift happy with this as he backs away.
Free Dragon, inside accents for LGD, not only towards the mid lane, but more importantly the Baron Pit. And while Vici have a ton of wards on the Baron Pit, that's why they're not immediately running bottom to that giant wave. They're like, ah, shit, we gotta get in position for Baron. Pull the back, Scotty beat me up. And they're now racing, some even teleporting to get closer to that pit, because that could have very easily been LGD just sprinting towards the objective.
Yeah, unlucky there, Mr. Swain. Hits him with the Force Lightning, but not enough to interrupt the recall. Uh-oh, this is bad. Knocked towards him.
That's
Yuki,
worse.
There's the reset. FireRain is good, but he's chunked down to Hub. Follow through. Oh, that was a sweet cancel coming in from the Aurelia, and she'll get the kill, but go down for it. There's going to be a trade on to the Vladimir. It's a 1 for 2. Make that 1 for 3.
And again, it's the difference to what is an Aurelia bringing to a team fight versus what is a Vladimir. And so for a 1-for-1 trade, absolutely worth for Aurelia, because Vladimir's ability to augment and amplify all of the damage. Yeah, he got the Hemoplague off, but you know, there's virtually no follow-up. They were trying to peel for the Vladimir instead of just dogpiling in on what he was trying to set up. So huge play from FireRain. He's not here to get the Baron, but Vici are.
Coming in from around the pit. He's not the one to smite, though. He's just playing a distraction for Amy over the wall. But here comes Audi. Flash over the wall. This guy is aggressive, but his goal is to get Rengar away from the pit, so Swift can come with the smite.
And Vici now firmly in the lead this game. They saw where they were going. They recognized they were out of position, quickly repositioned themselves on the map, then ran it straight down mid lane, found the necessary pick, set up the Baron, zoned appropriately, grabbed it, and are looking for the kill punch.
Here we go, one more time. Yuki low. Stun into Pillar is good. Yuki has to go into the Sanguine Pool right here, and now catch this cancel out from FLICKR.
Yeah, just sick on the back play there, but like you said, a trade 1-for-1, and again, there were so many members from LGD just trying to safeguard and get Yuki out of it that the fight was then cleaned up by the rest of Vici. In fact, I believe it was Jinnu and Amy showed up on the back half like, and we're not going to fight this one. Okay, it's over. See you next one.
But hey, we're at 24 minutes into the game. Vici have a 5,000 gold advantage. We're at match point, and Vici are on the verge of finding themselves their first win in the summer split. Remember back to the intro video that we see every time when we start a show. It's just like we want to escape the 14th place. They're on the verge of doing so, Frosk.
I mean, really the important part is that I'm going to get my tip right.
That's true, you and me both.
Didn't even doubt. Just hold on, Jinny's going to throw a wrench in that.
Here's FLICKR by himself, but not anymore, because here's Swift, 2 versus 1, and the teleport to double down. Yuki on his way towards the top lane, make that 4 versus 2, but the whole gang's here from both teams, and everybody politely steps away.
But it's a cannon creep, and it's Baron, and it's now all of this pressure.
Yeah, no banner to be seen, but this is still going to carve into the tower, so the engage has to happen now from PYL. Jumps onto Swift, he jumps away. Hemoplay going to get help back from Yuki. He can push forwards. Nice stun coming down, and that's the Trundle dead. Push forwards once again. Vanguard's Edge out from FLICKR. Finds 4. He jumps in, but he's going to fall as well. Swift dead, Audi dead, and now FLICKR is hunting for another kill. Oh, the Floors duet is strong, while White4 jumps over the wall. The dodge, it's not good enough, because Caveman chimes in with the kill, and the assist over to Snow.
Oh, they're going to continue to chase. Okay, that would have been crazy. I would have loved it, but PYL was sitting there like, my Q, my W, it is up, I dare you rise. Ultimately, though, Vici clean up the fight. They remain 3 Barons strong. They push through the tower, but I don't know if they grab an inhibitor. I don't think they have the creep wave to do it, never mind the fact that multiple people from LG are healing up and sprinting towards this tower. This is going to be a very quick hit and run. They're going...
It's dicey, yeah. I don't even think the Vici are feeling this at this point. Frosk, you're absolutely right. I don't know how that first duo hit, to be honest, but a few hours take it anyway. And Vici will find themselves the team fight, a tower, and make that 2 towers, and now an open inhib in the top side of the map.
I mean, these fights are... they're absolutely nuts. The only engaged tool naturally that LGD have is PYL. So as soon as PYL goes in, and again, as the captain, as the shot caller, he gets to pick the target. It's the Trundle and Swift that he ultimately grabs, and then pretty much everything is burned from LGD as they know this is where we plant our feet. Now keep your eyes on Amy for this entire fight. Snow is doing so much work, and Amy's gonna go for the assassination in tandem with Y4 Swain, but Snow just manages to outplay it, then flashes out of the damage and cleans up the back half of everything.
Yeah, well played, honestly. I mean, I was also calling the death of FLICKR way before it happened because he got so much health back in that team fight. And you're right, Snow comes in there with the cleanup, and it was just well played in general. You can see 224 damage coming out of Trundle, but the team, he tanked the damage for the team, and they put out the damage.
And we say this all the time about Vici. You know, before it was with EasyHoon, this time around it's with Swift, but ultimately the only thing that Vici need is they just need someone else to step up. Yeah. You know, it can't just be the one-man show.
They need another carry.
And right now, they've got 3. Audi is having a phenomenal game. FLICKR is doing everything that he can on Aurelia, getting some flashy, you know, highlight reel plays. And Snow on the rise, for me, has really been the unsung hero. In fact, I've sung his name several times, but I'm going to say it again. Snow is playing phenomenally on Rise.
I mean, it can be more than one verse, right? We can keep going. But he's definitely doing a good job so far. 3-0-8 on this Rise. This is South's Embrace Morellonomicon along with the Zhonya Hourglass. Correct.
And I give a huge flack to Rise. Again, I still feel that right now on the 8-11 meta, he's not my favorite champion. I think it's a pretty clear-cut strategy. Disappointed that Vici didn't make use of the strategy earlier on, but it's paying in full right now.
I'll be honest, while we're talking about majors on this current patch, I spoke to Clement about this, and we're just talking about how Swain is in the current meta. And we both are aligned on the fact that we both feel like Swain is a worse Vladimir right now. But LGD have actually picked up both, and Jinnu, that was the wrong place, and this is the wrong neighborhood. Nice stun though onto 2, and the team was there to catch him when he fell.
Yeah, just not quite aligned where his teammates were. He wants to get to the Mountain Dragon. He wants to try to pick up this creep wave that's building up, because again, it's a fairly telegraphed play from Vici. They're going to grab every available resource on the map, and the easiest ones to grab are the Mountain Dragon as well as the last standing outer tower on bot side. Excuse me, inner tower? Inner tower.
That's the Badger.
Yeah, I see the inhib towers, and I never remember to call them inhibs, so I just look at the one that's on the outer. I'm like, second one, must be the inner.
I mean, technically, inhib towers are like inner turrets, right? Because they're inside the base, but...
There's a specialized... We've got a document. We're all supposed to use the same language. I can't read, so... I'll take the blame on this one.
That's fair. Vici need to collect this top wave. They need to set up. Brand spawning about 90 seconds from now, just on the dot. So they need to be preparing for this. And they've got deep vision already laid down. So, I mean, this will be the, I don't want to say turning point, because I would feel like Vici are well and truly in the driver's seat. But I want another phrase other than the final nail in the coffin, because I feel like we say that all the time. But it is. It's
basically one more big moment. Is what they're looking for, which means that LGD do have their opportunity in the spotlight. They still have very hard scaling champions. You can never discount Vladimir and Jax and the damage that they can do in team fights, as long as they're respectful to Aurelia and Aatrox. So these team fights have been very close, very scrappy, and I feel like Vici, by the skin of their teeth, have been scraping over the line, even though multiple members are getting out, which, again, just credit to how Vici have been evolving. We always said that Vici were a someday team, and not a not right now team. And their management said this repeatedly. I mean, they've had 5 world champions cycle throughout that roster, and for 5 world champions and the highest that you've ever finished in the LPL being 5th, that's frankly unacceptable. That's a $300 car with a $3,000 stereo in it. Like, upgrade some pieces. And then they got some nice wheels, you know, that they put in some nice seat covers in it, got a nice little subwoofer, and the tune's just, it's banging.
And eventually it will come together, right? You keep adding good parts to a car, it's eventually going to become a good car. I think like right now, Vici have enough good components. Okay, we're at the calm before the storm here for us, so I'm going to ask you, who should we be following in the next team fight?
I think for LGD, it's about Yuki, and making sure that his Hemoplague hits multiple members, and more importantly, the LG follow up on that big window to end the team fight.
And for Vici?
I'm going to say it's going to be Audi.
Okay.
Even though it should be Aurelia and Snow, and it really has been, I just feel like Audi has kind of been the miracle pivot point for how he's been getting these, what is it, Bloodwell?
His Bloodwell passive?
His Bloodwell passive to stall out long enough for Aurelia and Ryze to win the back half of the fight. Like, it's been like 2 pivotal abilities.
All right. Let's follow him. PYL trapped in place. He's going to get dropped down to half. They're really just trying to bait out of this unbreakable will here, but he holds it. Fire Rain off to the side, finds the solo kill onto Yuki. Rusty, tell me again how this matchup is good for Vladimir.
And ultimately, I'm going to say the Observer was almost listening to us because the picture-in-picture came up and they wanted to look at the Aatrox. No one even was looking near the Aurelia. Just finds the 1v1, and now it's just zone control. Can Amy get into the pit?
And frankly, this just shouldn't happen. Amy over the wall, but he's getting destroyed by 2 members of Vici, and this is going to go down over to the team. The rotation back towards the mid lane right here, and I think that was it. That was the one big moment you were talking about, Frosk.
And we did say that it was going to be on Yuki as the Vladimir player, you know, as one of the rookies coming into this LGD squad. Just unfortunately, wrong place, wrong time, and it might cost LGD their best possible chance at picking up a series win.
Unbelievable stuff coming out here. It didn't even come down to a team fight. It just came off of a pick. Byron just finding Yuki off to the side. And now he's found Y4 as well. Yuki following up on this one. Pops into the Ascendant, but he needs to just back away from this one. And while LGD are just, I mean, frankly, just entrenched in their base, but they're about to be run over here by Vici.
And I thought it was going to be about Audi. It is all about Fire Rain. He has thrown the gauntlet. He says, this is not about Aatrox anymore. I'm the Aurelia. I am massive. I'm looking for the assassination. I'm looking for my first series win.
And Shen is going in there first. In comes the Aurelia. Massive knockup coming in from PYL, but they are kiting backwards. Fire Rain is in so deep right now as he finds 2 more targets. 3 members down on the side of LGD, and they're kiting back all the way back to their fountain. Vici, they want more. We're going to send minions at you and set up for the win. Here we go. Vici take the 2-1 win and their first win in summer.
Looking down the barrel of the Hangzhou crowd, overlooking LGD's guardian angel, sitting front and center. Vici finally do it. And it's not just off the back of the Swift. It was a true team effort. Swift got them over the line in game number 2 with a phenomenal performance on Nidalee. But it was Fire Rain, it was Snow, and it was Audi that hard carry the important game number 3.
And that's it for us. They have more than 1 carry now. For the longest time, that was the storyline. They have a carry, but they need 1 more. Honestly, that would probably make Vici a good team. Right now, they have 3, and it is enough to push them over the line.
Now, I do want to pump the brakes a little bit. Yes, there have been some good things to take away from this best of 3 for both teams, Vici and LGD. That said, the true test still lies before both these teams. If this is it, if this is just a one series victory, you know, maybe LG are able to take down someone like TOP in the other conference, maybe an OMG here, that's not enough. It's never been enough for these organizations. Vici and LGD have been around for so long. LGD, one of the pillars of the LPL. This is unacceptable. The organizations know that. They're trying to find the solution. They're trying to put together the pieces. It's now the clock starts. How much time do we give them with these new rosters before we throw the white flag again?
And honestly, Frost, I like to talk about the organizations, but also I like to talk about the players. I mean, that's, I think, one of the first times I've seen Vici players smile. Like, it's been a long time. This has been a team who've just been battered down constantly off loss after loss, but they've got the fans behind. The fact that their fans have followed them through to the studio here in LGD's own studio. This is home ground for them, and they just look happy.
And people say this about franchising all the time. There's kind of this polarizing split stance on it from the community that if you franchise, it means that you're going to have bottom-of-the-barrel teams like LGD and Vici, and they never have to learn a lesson. You know, they just get to sit back, cash in, they're franchised, they're safe, and it's like, no. These players, they're playing to play again. You know, it's pink slips on the line. If you continuously fail, you will just slide back. There are 20 teams in the LDL. There are 14 teams in the LPL. They can find plenty of talent to fill those seats and make this musical chairs of a roster. So if you're a bottom-of-the-table team, like, the pressure is on. You must perform to perform again another day.
And that was the TOP story, you know, at the end of the day. It was just like, this is a team who are not picking up wins right now, and for each individual player, it's about them showing that, hey, they're still mechanically good, they're still strong as a player. There's a reason why they were picked up in the LPL in the first place. So, good stuff for Vici. Congratulations on the win, of course, and LGD obviously a long way to go in the rest of the split. We'll see what else they can do. And honestly, I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaways from that game. Was like, I think we've just kind of gone over it all.
MVP Fire Rain, that's what I'm going to throw out.
Okay, there you go. That's going to be our closing statement. For now, we're going to send it back to the analyst desk to take a look at that full series.
Thanks, babes, and we're exactly going to do that because now we've got to break down how Vici won. They're making faces at us over on the side because they were talking about that word over the course of the game. But let's actually get into this because Vici, they did a lot of things right, even though it wasn't everything right. They're still taking the steps that we want to see from them.
We wanted to see improvements from both teams, and I feel like whilst Vici won at the end of the day, we still saw some improvements even from LGD on the other side, right? So this was closer to what we wanted, which is that meet-in-the-middle style of play, and a lot of it did shift through that draft phase. Of course, you can see it on your screens now. The big thing that we have to bring up is LGD. The weakness that they had in Game 2 where they were completely smacked, they fixed. They course-corrected, and they've got themselves a strong bottom... first pick, first rotations again. The Swain to Vladimir, whilst you may not want both together, Swain can go bottom, Vladimir can go mid, they can flex the champions. My problem is that they picked both of them and didn't flex them, but they picked stronger champions overall, so it was a big win from LGD as far as the start of the draft goes. That's already an improvement from them. My concern, once again, is when the Jax comes out. I'm just not sure why the Jax is coming out.
You got to wonder about them picking for Jinnu. Maybe he said that he could carry, but he was unable to. That said, on the other side, Audi definitely showed that he can carry on that Aatrox. Again, Aurelia, Aatrox, first pick. Same in Game 2, same in Game 3 for Vici to close the series out. It's more than just the champions because we're starting to see Fire Rain also step up more in terms of how he's leading his team.
He's got a couple champions that he can play now, right? So it's not just those champions. He's able to make plays with all of them. The Aurelia in particular was the first one we saw from him, and then he went to the Yasuo. So it's good to see him back on that Aurelia one more time, still performing extremely well. And when you talk towards Vici's draft, we spoke a bit about what LGD did. Vici picked the Aurelia first. High priority, once again, blue side every game, try and prioritize the Aurelia where they could, and then they went Aatrox Ryze. They picked Ryze into the Vladimir, into the Swain. It has a decent matchup regardless, so they were happy with that one. They chose that, and it was very successful for them through the bottom lane 2v2. And we've already said this for this set, the bottom lane is the entryway to everything, because that's the engage tools or the power feed tools, depending on which team's winning.
And, excuse me, it seems like we also saw that as well in that bottom lane was PYL thinking he could take a few skirmishes when he couldn't. Same thing for Caveman on the other side with that Shen. So, again, we're still looking to see these supports start to grow or at least embrace a more tanky role for their team. Not one in which they're in the front dying, but one in which they're in the front setting up.
But they are playing tanks, so it worked out okay this time. This is rule number one for me, at least, playing against LGD and Vici, is Rakan, Alistar, Shen, all tanks. So if they pick them, then already they're playing better. And you can see it here, of course. Caveman manages to survive until the end from that engage. Any other squishy champion would be going down, and then it just becomes the Audi show. He's dealing damage constantly, gets low constantly. They actually get to tank some damage in between there. Caveman specifically showing up as well in the nick of time to help his team, but Audi's been free hitting throughout all of this, just doing it incredibly well.
Yeah, Snow managing to chase off Amy on the backside of that fight, but like we said, Audi absolutely massive, and Yuki tries to get in there to finish off Snow, but even Shelly the Herald wants to step in for the ace and get that final kill. But again, that was the risky fight. For the damage dealt for that fight, it was about 4,500 for Audi, 4,500 for Snow. Fire Rain even do 3,000. Jinnu doing a whopping 300, I think it was, as he jumped into the back, used Counter-Strike, and then immediately got focused down off the back of it.
Yeah, so there was a couple of things in that fight, the reason that we want to show that one. First and foremost, that captures the styles of both of these teams quite brilliantly. The supports hitting each other to start the fight off, but one is an Alistar, so he headbutts him in. Caveman just taunts out. So supports are hitting each other whilst the rest of the fight's happening, because they're the shot callers trying to communicate and engage, and everyone else is like, what's happening? Fight the closest person. Past that, it's execution that seems to be the difference between these teams, and I think that's where I wanted to give the advantage to Vici. It's a big part of why I predicted Vici for the third game. If they both play at a similar level, then what I'm saying is strategically they should be sound still. But execution, I always give it to Vici over LGD at the moment. It just seems like they are the better team.
Yeah, they absolutely pulled it together in that one. Again, a quick reminder for the folks at home, we will be taking a break after we finish this post desk. The next game will be starting at 5 o'clock China Standard. That's on the hour for those of you who don't want to do the time zone conversion, so about 30-ish minutes from now. But still, to continue breaking this down, it wasn't just that one fight and the Rift Herald that turned the game. There was a push and pull over the course of this matchup, though Vici were able to, time and again, get these small advantages in these fights. Snow on that rise, machine gunning in the top lane comes to mind. Able to survive for so long despite the chaotic dive from Fire Rain going nearly a turret deep against 4 people.
Yeah, starting trying to catch out Swift in particular from the side of Vici, so it was a good look in from LGD when they were trying to find those fights. And that was the thing, you mentioned this, it was close, it was chaotic, it was very frantic when the fights broke out. The difference was usually 1 kill. But because they kept that extra kill Vici, it also meant a turret on the back end, and they get further and further gold advantages. They etched themselves into the game with a solid lead, meaning that every forthcoming fight that you get towards the end was just that one extra step further in their favor, and then there was no way back in for LGD.
Yeah, Fire Rain. I mean, finding the assassination onto the Vladimir in the back. The observers didn't even spot it until it was over. And then when it's no longer a 5v5, well, I guess this is the fight that we were talking about with the 10 stack on that top lane. Amy comes in to finish off Swift, doing a whopping 224 damage in that fight, but Snow and Fire Rain absolutely made up for it.
Yeah, Fire Rain's ultimate hits all of the LGD, and they have to walk away through the ult just to get out to safety, so they're disengaged, they're not allowed to attack, and Snow has been bodying people in the back line, Fire Rain in the front line, working very well as a team, even though they're individual pieces. And that is, seemingly at least, the Vici motto. They're just 5 strong individuals that come together and pull off, I'm not going to say a miracle team fight, but they team fight miraculously, and then it somehow works.
Is this something that can be fixed over time for this team then? Are we expecting a strong voice to come in and clean up all of these problems? Because like we said, it's not necessarily the mechanics. It's they're 5 separate players, not one collective team.
It's a really hard thing to actually give a definitive answer on. Because right now, when you look at the team, Caveman's meant to be a big communicator, but he's been there for a while. Swift is now the new star in the team as well. You saw the Nidalee performance in game number 2, so you know what he's capable of, but I've never known Swift as a big communicator or shot caller for the team. And so I'm not sure for Vici exactly what that communication ceiling will become and what that will look like in the end. You would say right now, because we're in week 2, just barely in week 2, and they're doing quite well individually, that should be the only thing they really need to focus on, so it should get better.
Well, the hope is that they can do that. Snow takes our MVP with that Game 3 victory. His Rise was able to put out massive damage that helped clinch these team fights. And then, of course, somebody who's actually ranged can walk up to these turrets and sieges and break them down. 5-0 and 11.
And 5-0-10. Just missing that extra one there, but 1 MVP makes it 11, don't worry. Of course, he had a very good showing here, Snow, and unfortunately for Oscar, it's not going to be the Fire Rain. He'd still be my runner-up at the very least as well. Strong individuals, and we saw it through the highlights, through the replays. You know full well that they were both doing their share of carrying, and the MVP was just pick one.
Yeah, icing on the cake for the team. Though that being said, now we've got to talk about LGD. They brought in Y4. They looked good in game 1. They looked a little bit worse in game 2. And then game 3, it was just riding the line. They just weren't able to close it out. This is a team that is now 0-4 in the LPL. Rusty.
They've swapped spots with Vici from Spring.
They have. What's the verdict on this team? Y4, it looks like he's still having some difficulty meshing in the laning phase, but it's chaos for him.
Yeah, I give excuses to Y4, right? It's his first set with the team. He's getting used to PYL. He's in the duo lane. It's actually the hardest lane to just jump into and be okay with, right? Like, people may say jungle's the hardest because you got to communicate with your lanes, but they should be communicating anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, that kind of speaks for itself. But knowing the 2v2, the duo lane, and specifically how support works when you're stuck with them is a hard thing. Y4, he's got to get out of jail free card for the next, let's say, 2 weeks. Let's just give him 2 weeks. The verdict of LGD, man, they're a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
I really don't know.
Bit of a mess.
That's the thing. Like, why is Amy the best performing player on this team right now when their top lane is meant to be the hard carry? The Korean star that comes in for LGD is meant to pop off, and he's just picking jacks and not winning his lane, getting ganked without vision there. The communication seems to be missing. Something's gone wrong. And I don't think Amy's playing poorly. But why is he the star of this team when he's a facilitator?
Exactly. It might be time for us to start looking at re-identifying LGD. They may no longer be the sleeping dragon. If the dragon has been asleep for 3 years, it might not necessarily wake up, and they might have to turn into something else. We'll definitely think about that. Have you got anything on the top of your head that could come to mind?
I hope that they get better, man. It's so sad.
It really is. From the team that we sent to Worlds in 2015 to...
Oh, we don't talk about that.
Well, yeah.
That Worlds never happened.
That stays in the history books. It's a chapter for us to look at fondly. We're going to go ahead and take a break, ladies and gentlemen. On the hour is when our e-commerce wars will be back. It's Suning versus Jingdong. So feel free, get yourself some coffee, get yourself some snacks, and prepare, because the matches are only just beginning. We got 2 more best of 3s coming at you in just a few.
速牛队员不会为遗憾找借口，必须变强，必须进步。